For 3 years, we have waited for justice for Tim. For 3 years, we have been in and out of this courthouse, forced to look at and breathe in the same space with the utter depths of depravity in our society. We have had to endure being near the two men that walked down my driveway on May 6, 2013, and took away the bright life in our lives that was Tim.
You are listening to the widow of Tim Bosma reacting to the verdict handed down less than 3 hours ago. The jury finding both Dylan Millard and Mark Smich guilty of first-degree murder in the death of the Ancaster father and husband. Some closure for his family today, more than 3 years after Bosma left his house for a test drive in his truck and never returned. Good evening and welcome to a special edition of CTV News at 6. We have extensive coverage and analysis of today's verdicts. The jury's decision coming down in the 5th day of deliberations. We begin our coverage with CTV's Nicole Lampa at the courthouse in Hamilton. Nicole, tell us about the reaction in the courtroom when the verdicts came in.
Well, Megan, there were loud gasps of relief from Tim Bosma's family. His wife Charlene was shaking, crying and smiling when the 6 men and 6 women each stood up and confirmed the verdicts. Crown attorneys meticulously presented mounds of evidence and dozens of witnesses to prove their case against Dylan Millard and Mark Smich. Today, a major victory.
It was all worth it because Tim Bosma was a good man and he deserved everything we gave.
Millard is now convicted of first-degree murder. The 30-year-old chose not to testify in his own defense and had to rely on his lawyers to suggest it was his co-accused, Mark Smich, who pulled the trigger.
Yes, it's like a freestyle session with no lesson.
The highlight of the trial came from Mark Smich, also convicted today of first-degree murder. He surprised many by taking the stand, pointing his finger squarely at Millard, claiming it was Millard who killed Bosma, and that he wasn't even in the truck when it happened, a move that may have hurt Smich's case. Another key moment in the trial was when Millard's ex-girlfriend testified. Christina Newscast claimed she didn't know what Millard did before his arrest, but explosive jailhouse letters written by Millard showed how he tried to convince Newscast to tamper with witness testimony.
Justice has been done in our community. I want to thank everybody who was involved. I want to thank the defense lawyers who were very professional. I want to thank the judge, but especially I want to thank the jury because they worked very hard in this case.
Now, there will be no victim impact statements and the sentences are automatic, so both men will be serving life in prison with no chance of parole until 2038. But Smich says he'll be appealing his conviction.
And Nicole, the judge also made some closing remarks today. What did he have to say to end this lengthy and emotional trial?
Megan, his comments were brief. He gave Mr. Millard and Mr. Smich a chance to say something, but they both declined. Justice Goodman then said that their actions were incomprehensible, but was heartened to see that through Tim Bosma's family, Tim Bosma's spirit was not broken by their despicable actions. Megan.
Okay, Nicole Lampa reporting from Hamilton tonight. Thank you, Nicole. So justice today for Tim Bosma, the victim in all of this. He is someone that we have come to learn more about during the investigation and trial. The Ancaster man was just 32 years old when he went out on that fateful test drive. Bosma was married to his wife Charlene for 3 years. Their daughter was only 2 years old when he disappeared. At the time of his death, he was working for a heating and air conditioning company. Bosma comes from a tight-knit religious family. Many of them showed up to court daily during the lengthy trial, with Charlene sitting in the front row. Well, for a look at how this crime unfolded, we go to CTV's Mark Venema. He is in North Dumfries tonight at the property formerly owned by Dylan Millard, the property where Tim Bosma's remains were eventually discovered. Mark.
Megan, what happened to Tim Bosma in 2013 really pulled at heartstrings right across the country.
On May 6th of 2013, Tim Bosma put his daughter to bed, kissed his wife, and told her he'd be right back. Bosma was about to take 2 men out on a test drive in his Dodge pickup truck, the same vehicle he had just put up for sale online. The 2 men showed up 2 hours late at about 9 o'clock. The trio took off and never returned.
Dodge 3500 black. That's the one that we're looking for.
As police searched for the vehicle and for any clues, Bosma's wife made a desperate plea.
It is just a truck. You don't need him. But I do. And our daughter needs her daddy back. So please, please let him come home.
In Bosma's hometown of Ancaster, family and friends gathered to sing and pray.
They come because everybody knows one another, and when something like this happens, they pull together.
4 days after his disappearance, police announced they found Bosma's cell phone somewhere near this business in Brantford.
Last night, police conducted a ground search of this area. It was a very large area. However, nothing further of Mr. Bosma's was found.
What they did eventually find were cell phone records indicating that the same two men that left with Tim Bosma test drove a similar vehicle in Toronto the day before. The owner was dropped off unharmed.
I think fortunately for this person, he's a very large individual, and I think that he would have overpowered the both of them, and I think that was his advantage.
5 days after Bosma went missing, police announced the arrest of Dylan Millard. They began guarding Millard's airport hangar in Breslau, waiting for a search warrant. This as the search for Bosma continued.
We don't know where he is. We don't know if he's safe.
The next day, police find Bosma's truck inside a trailer parked at Millard's mother's home in Kleinburg, just outside of Vaughan.
Detective Sergeant, do you think that Timothy Bosma is still alive?
We always have to hold out hope. That's all I can say.
On May 13th, police begin searching a farm property south of Kitchener owned by Millard. The next day, police announced that Bosma's remains were burned beyond recognition. Millard is charged with first-degree murder. 8 days later, police announced they've charged a second suspect.
Today, the Hamilton Police Service arrested Mark Smitch, S-M-I-C-H, 25 years, of Oakville, Ontario.
The second arrest made the same day Tim Bosma's family said goodbye and began the wait for those accused in his death to stand trial.
And as for that airport hangar once owned by convicted killer Dylan Millard, it now has a new tenant, and Millard Air has ceased operations. This farm here on Roseville Road has also sold. It now belongs to a landscaping company. Megan.
Okay, Mark Venema reporting in North Dumfries tonight. Thank you, Mark. Well, during the trial, disturbing details were revealed about Mark Smitch and Dylan Millard. One was an unemployed drug dealer and wannabe rapper. The other, the heir to an aviation business who seemingly had it all. Here's CTV's Alex Pinto with a deeper look at the now convicted killers.
On his 14th birthday, Dylan Millard became the youngest Canadian to fly solo in both a helicopter and a plane on the same day.
Felt great. Kind of free, do anything up there.
In his 20s, he took over Millard Air, the family business started by his grandfather. Those who dealt with him say Millard seemed like a thorough businessman. This Waterloo Region realtor helped Millard buy this North Dumfries farm in 2011 and the airport hangar in Breslau.
3 or 4 times we met out here to have a good look at the property, and on a number of occasions I met him over at the airport as well when we were into doing paperwork.
During the trial, details of Millard's lavish lifestyle were heard, always showing off the planes and vehicles stored at the hangar, throwing parties at his home in Etobicoke, and taking friends on vacations. Millard also promised to build Mark Smitch a recording studio.
Who's Who, Blues Clues.
Smitch, an aspiring rap artist, grew up in Oakville, was a high school dropout and a small-time drug dealer. The jury heard the unlikely duo met when Smitch sold marijuana to Millard. From there, their friendship grew. On the stand, Smitch said several times they were like brothers.
Alexandra Pinto, CTV News.
Well, during the trial, it was revealed that both men had disturbing nicknames. Millard was sometimes called Dylan the Felon, a nickname he apparently didn't like, while Smitch went by the rap name Say 10, which was meant to sound like Satan. Well, this trial was followed by Canadians across the country. So many people drawn to this story because of the way that Tim Bosma met his killers through an online classified ad where he was simply trying to sell his vehicle. CTV's Tyler Kelver has been gathering reaction on the street to today's verdict. He joins us now from downtown Kitchener. Tyler.
Megan, no real surprise, but many of the people we spoke to today say justice was served.
It was the right decision.
Justice for Tim Bosma. That's the reaction from people in Waterloo Region after a jury convicted Dylan Millard and Mark Smich of first-degree murder.
The evidence supported it.
I've been following the story and I thought that they were guilty all along, so really happy to see that.
I think it's very good that it's guilty on both for both of them. It's justice served, in my opinion. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Very happy to hear the verdict.
Like so many Canadians, Amanda Sills feels connected to the Bosma family. She says it was emotional hearing the verdict.
It's horrifying to think that you can go about your daily life and just have your husband taken like that. We have a young son too, and it's a horrifying prospect to have to go through.
Shannon Botsatka says the Bosma ordeal has changed how people communicate online.
Even when I post to Kijiji now, I kind of think about it and kind of think twice about posting.
It could be, anyone, it's going to make people very reluctant to sell things.
I couldn't imagine what I would feel like if, I'd put an ad on Kijiji and all of a sudden you go to take a car for a spin and no one comes back. That would hit you pretty hard.
Can't even imagine the pain they're in, and this can't be vindication for them, but maybe a little bit better to, that these guys are going to pay for what they did.
Strong reaction from the people we spoke to today. The message from everyone today, the Canadian justice system worked very well. Megan.
Okay, thanks very much, Tyler. Well, joining me now to talk more about the Canadian justice system and this trial is criminal defense lawyer Brennan Smart. Mr. Smart, you've obviously been involved in a number of murder trials. What's your reaction to today's verdict? Both men guilty of first-degree murder.
Well, obviously the jury, after listening to 4.5 months of evidence, agreed with the Crown's theory in the case and agreed that they proved beyond reasonable doubt that each Smich and Millard had planned and deliberated to kill Mr. Bosma and carried it out.
Now, we've heard a number of times this was a cutthroat defense where the accused point the finger at each other. Clearly, that was a strategy, though, that did not work for Millard or Smich.
No, obviously the defense put forward by Mr. Smich and his evidence was rejected soundly by the jury. Mr. Millard didn't take the stand, so we don't really know what his position was, but what we do know is that it's usually a situation in which there was irrefutable evidence that each were there and each were there when he was killed, really leaving very little option for the defense to put forward a non-culpatory defense.
Okay, finally, Mr. Smart, the Bosma family, so many other people following this trial, they were looking for closure. A verdict is one thing, but it doesn't tell us exactly what happened to Tim Bosma that night. Of course, we will never know those details, but that is the way the Canadian justice system has worked here.
That may be true. I think that what happened that night was painstakingly set out by the Crown through evidence that was accepted. All that were there in the courtroom heard evidence. They'll come to their conclusions. The reality is, in any murder case, usually the only witnesses are the deceased and the perpetrator, and you're not going to accept the perpetrator's evidence in all cases. So in this case, I don't think that anyone was going to accept, or anyone did accept, the explanation given by Mr. Smich or Mr. Millard through his counsel.
Okay, Brennan Smart, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
So what's next for Millard and Smich? The pair still have to deal with other serious allegations. Both men each face a first-degree murder charge in the death of a Toronto woman. 23-year-old Laura Babcock disappeared in the summer of 2012. The trial for that case is scheduled to begin sometime next summer. Millard is also charged with first-degree murder in the death of his own father. Wayne Millard died in December 2012. His death was originally ruled a suicide. Trial dates for that matter still have to be determined. And another player connected to this case also has an upcoming trial. Dylan Millard's former girlfriend, Christina Newjka, is charged with accessory after the fact to murder. The 24-year-old university honors student was arrested more than a year after Tim Bosma disappeared. Well, this high-profile trial has been a lengthy one. It started back on February 1st. Since then, the jury has listened to 56 days of testimony. More than 170 items were entered into evidence, and 92 witnesses took the stand, including Mark Smich. For more reaction to today's verdict and the full statements from the Crown and family, you can go to our website, kitchener.ctvnews.ca. Before we head to break, we are going to listen to more of what Charlene Bosma had to say following today's verdicts.
What is unfair is that regardless of all that has transpired in the courtroom today, one thing will never change for us. There is one absolute constant for us. This does not bring Tim back, and he will still never come home. That being said, although we endure a life sentence without Tim, we have learned to collectively laugh again, to smile, and embrace what we still have. We have memories, a lot of very beautiful memories.
And we are going to take a quick break now and return with some of the other stories making news. An Elora family in mourning and an investigation ongoing after a deadly crash near Elmira. 23-year-old Sean Beam was driving on Northfield Drive near Line 86 when police say he struck a dump truck and crashed in a ditch. He died on scene, but tonight we are learning more about his life. CTV's Allison Tanner reports.
Christine and Gordon Beam hold each other in the spot their son died. 23-year-old Sean Beam was in the Toyota when he crashed and ended up in this ditch last evening.
It left the paved portion of the roadway, hit the gravel portion, which caused the motor vehicle to lose control.
I started hearing sirens going down the road there. I ended up looking down there and I seen there was a crash down the road there with a dump truck.
Police say the driver of the dump truck had minor injuries. Sean Beam died on scene. That's something his mom says may have been a small blessing, that he didn't suffer long.
At this point, don't believe drugs or alcohol to be a factor.
Christine Beam describes her son as a tall, blonde, handsome man. She says he loved to travel and was interning as an electrical engineer. He was born and raised in Elora, loved fishing, and his mom says he had a girlfriend.
I really feel sorry for the family, and all my thoughts and prayers go out to them.
Today, pieces of the car and signs of a response by paramedics still line the highway.
It was pretty tragic, really.
They have family members flying in from all over for a funeral they plan to hold on Tuesday. To honor her son, she hopes people will donate blood in his name. Allison Tanner, CTV News, Elmira.
Father's Day is fast approaching, and while you may be thinking of the perfect gift, it's important to note how the world has changed for dads. More than 1 in 10 stay-at-home parents are now fathers. CTV's Mary Cranston is following this story tonight. And Mary, you spoke to one dad who's currently on parental leave.
I did, Megan, and rather than his wife doing a full leave, they've decided to share the time. It's becoming a growing trend in Canada, and it's something he's looking forward to.
Honey, I'm home.
50 years ago, this is how we saw Dad. Dads would come home, dinner would be made, laundry was done, and the house was spotless. Fast forward to 2016, dads are now doing the dishes and taking a parental leave, like Matthew Day.
I think an equal society will benefit everybody, and so that's what I'm trying to do in my own way.
Sociology professor Linda Quirk says over the 20th century, media representations of fathers have shifted dramatically.
There's been much more of a focus on dads as being nurturing and being really involved fathers.
And with more women in the workforce than ever before, the duties at home are shared.
Joanne does most of the cooking. Yeah, she does cooking in cars for the most part. I do the cleaning in the house.
As the roles of mothers and fathers converge, Quirk says there is a stigma that still exists.
That might hold them back a bit from really nurturing their kids.
I think the more Men become comfortable, the less stigmatized it is to become a really active and engaged father.
Carrying more of the load and giving everyone a cause to celebrate Dad.
And Day says the one thing he is most excited about Father's Day is spending time with his wife and 2 kids. Megan.
All right, thanks very much, Mary. And it is perfect weather to spend some time outside with Mom or Dad tonight. And hey, if Dad likes hot, sunny weather, he is in for a treat this weekend for Father's Day. Lindsay has your forecast coming up. Also ahead on CTV News. The Waterloo Inn reopens under a new name. We get a peek inside the newly renovated building. And an iconic motorcycle brand is shifting gears. Why Harley-Davidson is opening a coffee shop. And it's a big weekend for music. The MMVAs go this Sunday in Toronto. Taylor Swift and Justin Timberlake will be there. What fans can expect. We are going to turn back to our lead story. The jury in the Tim Bosma murder trial found both Dylan Millard and Mark Smich guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict announced at 3 o'clock this afternoon in a Hamilton courtroom. CTV's Nicole Lampa was in the room when all of this happened. Nicole.
Well, Megan, there was a loud collective sigh of relief. Tim Bosma's wife started crying, shaking, and smiling, happy with the outcome. Moments later, Charlene Bosma spoke to the public, thanking everyone, especially the police and the Crown attorneys, for fighting for her husband, Tim Bosma. Bosma was killed 3 years ago by Dylan Millard and Mark Smich. The jury agreed the 2 men shot Bosma at close range, burned Bosma's body, and left Bosma's remains on Millard's farm in North Dumfries. Today is the closure of a 4-month trial. Now, Millard and Smich will be serving a life sentence with no chance of parole until 2038. Smich says, however, he will be appealing his conviction. Megan.
Okay, CTV's Nicole Lampa in Hamilton tonight. Thank you, Nicole. And a reminder, for more reaction to today's verdict and the full statements from the Crown and family, you can go to our website, kitchener.ctvnews.ca. Well, it has taken thousands of hours to set up and more than £1 million of steel and gear, but a parking lot in downtown Toronto is almost completely transformed, and the stage is almost set for the iHeartRadio MMVAs. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the details.
This is the iHeartRadio MMVA stage. This is one of the performance decks here.
As the clock ticks closer to showtime, the stage is set.
We have taken over every corner of this parking lot.
From the risers for fans hidden behind the honeycombs.
It's like a 360 of fans, because there's also the fans out in front and then the fans out on the street.
To the celebrity viewing platforms all along the side of the stage.
This is the walk that Gigi Hadid's going to be doing off the top of the show.
The iHeartRadio MMVA team has transformed every square inch of this space with more than £1 million of steel and gear. More than 8,000 hours spent setting it all up. Making way for the star-studded lineup that will take the stage
killing the game, about to catch a body
here on Sunday. And here is something else new this year, designed specifically to improve the fan experience. Not only is the stage lowered to the ground to bring the stars closer to the fans, but the stage is closer to the street than ever before. And behind the scenes inside,
this is Shamar Moore's room, actually. So he will be sitting here.
The green room is ready too.
It's very on high security in this room. Everybody loves to try to get in here.
But it's only for the 150 performers and presenters who will be pampered.
So there's roasted corn on the bottom of that.
And offered some designer hors d'oeuvres.
People are here to party, so they want things that are easy to eat.
Back outside, the fans are already stopping by to scope out the setup.
They've done so much with it, and they put so much hard work and energy into it, and I believe it's going to be a wonderful, awesome night.
It all happens right here on Sunday. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
After years of planning, a brand new barrier-free fitness park has opened in Waterloo. Students and staff at Bluevale Collegiate were joined by local politicians and dignitaries to officially open the inclusive fitness park. The park includes equipment that people of all ages and abilities can use. The project is a partnership between all levels of government, the Waterloo District School Board, and the KW Community Foundation. Well, cardiac care at Kitchener's St. Mary's Hospital is getting a much-needed injection of cash. The province is promising up to $7 million.
The community finally has this critically important service.
Still to come on CTV News, what the money means for the hospital and heart patients. Here's a look at how the markets ended the day. The TSX saw small gains, up 19 points. The Dow lost 58, the Nasdaq down 45. Oil prices saw a rebound after a recent string of losses, gaining almost $2, now selling for $48.56 a barrel. And the Canadian dollar jumped half a cent today, closing at 77.65 cents US. Here are the values for the euro, the pound, and the yen. Harley-Davidson is getting into the business of brewing cappuccino. The maker of the legendary Hog has opened its first coffee shop in West End, Toronto. From a marketing angle, the location will expose the Harley brand in a part of town that's home to a craft brewery, an upscale tattoo shop, and trendy restaurants. Harley-Davidson Canada says the motorcycle-themed cafe is intended to attract women, which are its fastest-growing customer base. In health news tonight, the province is committing up to $7 million in funding for the cardiac care unit at Kitchener's St. Mary's Hospital.
I'm really glad that we have, after a significant period of waiting, that the community finally has this critically important service.
The money will be used to build an electrophysiology suite. Of the 11 hospitals in Ontario that perform cardiac surgeries, St. Mary's is the only one not to have one. Funding for this project was initially promised in 2012, but the hospital has been waiting. Hospital officials hope the new suite will be ready by late 2017. And let's check in with the national news team now for a look at what's coming up later tonight.
Tonight, a blunt reality check on the dangers of distracted driving, the shock value of a new campaign designed to send a powerful message about how lives can change in the blink of an eye. Later on CTV National News.
Well, a touch of humidity out there this evening, making it feel more like 30 in Waterloo region. We are in for a warm start to the day tomorrow. Wake up weather is coming up.
I'm Randy Steinman. Just ahead, Mike Van Ryn reportedly has a new job. Where is the former Kitchener Rangers head coach landed? Sports is next.
Time now to check in with the late news team to see what they're working on for 11:30. CTV's Mark Venema is in our newsroom tonight. Mark.
Megan, it's the largest run student project at the University of Waterloo, and it all started with the idea of a solar-powered bike. They've since built solar-powered race cars, and today they introduced their latest accomplishment. Tonight at 11:30, the brand new design and the impact it could have on the future of transportation. Megan.
Okay, thanks very much, Mark. And anything solar powered is going to do pretty good tomorrow morning.
That's right. It is a very sunny start to the weekend. It is going to be a sunny weekend overall, but look at these temperatures. By 10 a.m., we may already be at 25 degrees in the afternoon, perhaps around 30. So enjoy the heat, but of course, stay hydrated and stay cool.
Absolutely. All right, well, finally for us tonight, it's always a big feat for a baseball fan to catch a foul ball in the stands.
But one dad in Philadelphia made one for the highlight reel. Toronto Blue Jays' Kevin Pillar smacked one down the right field line.
The dad not only snagged the ball with his right hand, he managed to do it with his daughter on his lap while holding a tray with his other hand. Everyone around him was pretty impressed too, or maybe a little stunned.
Yeah, that is quite the catch.
Yeah.
He barely moves.
And he's got a nice ball for Father's Day weekend.
There you go.
A Father's Day gift for himself.
Yeah.
Perfect gift.
Maybe Kevin Pillar signed it too.
You never know. All right, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend and enjoy the sunshine. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
And all of you for coming tonight to show that we are a community